Hi kids, it's Miss Virginia from Avery United Methodist Church. Your friends at Avery wanted to be sure that you have the opportunity to hear some of the Bible stories and also to be able to learn about the Bible stories, and have gotten together the Sunday school packets that you have for this September Sundays, and hoping you have just a fantastic fall. And we'll continue doing that until we're back into seeing you in person. Today's story I want to tell you about is a story from the Old Testament. The Old Testament in the book of Genesis talks about the beginning of the earth and God's people. We understand that the story of Abram and Sarai tells us about someone, Abram, who had a great a while back grandfather was Noah. And Noah, of course, is the same Noah as Noah in the ark and Noah in the great flood. Well, Abraham, after Noah had died, was the leading person that we learn about in Genesis. And Abram was close to God. And God loved Abram as he loves you. And God also spoke with Abram. Abram and Sarai lived together in the area of Abram's homeland, and Abram's life was really good. He was successful, he had a lot of property, he had a lot of livestock, and he and Sarai had everything they could want except a family. They didn't have any children. One day God spoke to Abram and said, "Abram, take Sarai and move to the place that I have going to lead you to go." Abram had a large household, a lot of animals, a lot of property, and that was a big thing for him to do. But they did exactly what God told them to do. They picked up everything, packed up everything, and traveled as God led them. Now remember, during this time, it was not easy to travel. They had to travel probably on camels and on foot, and they went a long way. When Abram had been living with his father, he lived in a place called Ur, U-R, and they traveled to a place called Haran, and it was from Haran that Abram and Sarai left that land, searching for and following what God wanted. At this time, Abram was 75 years old, and his wife, we believe, was about 60 years old. Abram and Sarai did exactly what God told them to do. They packed up everything, just like we would do today if we were moving. They gathered up all their animals, got their animals ready in their traveling clothes, and took them off as God told them to do. When Abram was 99 years old, he was speaking to God, and God had promised Abram that he would be the father of a great nation, but he still had no children. And he prayed to God about that. Abram by that time had much wealth. He had many riches, a lot of livestock, all the property, personal property that he could possibly want, but he had no children. And he spoke to God about that, and God said that he would have a child, and also said that God would see to it that that child had wealth and riches. God also told Abram that his name would be changed to Abraham, and Sarah's name would be changed to, or Sarai's name would be changed to Sarah. The child that they were to have was going to be, whose name was Isaac. He was going to be given much land. And remember, Abraham and Sarah lived in tents. They traveled all these years living only in tents with the various property that they had carried with them. One day, after this conversation with God, 3 visitors appeared. Abraham was standing in the doorway of his tent, and Sarah was in the tent. Abraham saw to it that the visitors were treated well, got them water to drink, water for their animals, and made sure they had something to eat as well as drink. And then those visitors, as they visited with Abraham, said, Abraham, in a year when we come back, Sarah will have had a baby. And Abraham thought that was impossible. And they all heard Sarah laugh inside her tent. Isn't this an exciting story? An exciting story that we'll have to wait to see what happens. And whether or not Abraham and Sarah actually had a child. They learned an important lesson that I guess we all need to learn. First of all, they trusted God. They also saw to it that they did what God told them to do. And then they had to be patient. And it was hard for Abraham and Sarah to be patient. It's hard for us to be patient. So sometimes when we pray to God, God answers the prayers right away. And sometimes the answer is no, sometimes it's yes. And sometimes, and this one's always hard for me, sometimes it's you're going to have to wait to see what happens. Let's remember today's lesson that when God promises something, God keeps that promise. And also, if we look out through all the Bible stories that we have been able to learn, we know that whatever God promises, God does, and that nothing is impossible for God. I love you guys. Hope to see you soon.